This is Deandra Beatty, and you're listening to The Bowler Show.
Hi, this is Jackie Bowling, and you're listening to The Bowler Show.
This is Jeff Riggles of Storm Products. And
oh, balls.
This is Deandra Beatty, and you're listening to The Bowler Show.
Hi, this is Jackie Bowling, and you're listening to The Bowler Show.
This is Jeff Riggles of Storm Products and the 11thframe.com. You're listening to The Bowler Show.
Hi, this is EJ Tackett, and you're listening to The Bowler Show.
Welcome to The Bowler Show, featuring interviews with the biggest names in bowling today. Tonight, 900 Global brand manager Matt Cabanski joins us to talk about leading the way to becoming one of the premier brands in the industry. Following Matt, Storm Regional Sales Manager Brett Cooper hopes to find a window in his schedule to talk travels and adventures in the bowling world. Next, local high roller Brandon Carlson joins us to debunk the myths about the ease of the left side of the lane, as well as share a little of his expertise in robotics. Then to wrap up the show, we once again welcome journalist for thebowlingnews.net, Mark London. And now your hosts, David the Waz Waswo and myself, Luke Rosedal.
All right, welcome welcome all to another exciting edition of the Bowler Show. And there, let's unfortunately just let people know Brett Cooper will not be making it tonight. And I really enjoyed your promo there, and we'll see if what you said on the promo there. That was pretty good.
Yeah, I was going to mention something about debating the pros and cons of sleeves, but we'll let Brandon get into that later.
It's funny when you see him bowl on a stream somewhere else, it doesn't even look like him. So for him, but Luke, I'm going to be honest with you. This week, I'm running around off. I've done this. Probably be a good show because I've done no prep.
Yeah,
I've been working Labor Day tournament. I'm actually ready to drink myself, but I don't have anything here. Labor Day tournament, City Open here in the background. We're getting all this stuff ready at one time, and I'm a little frazzled. So got people already into the list and stuff. But if you're in the Kansas City area to late the East tomorrow, we have signed up for our Labor Day tournament at Late the East.
Yep.
So, anywho, that's for the Kansas City tournaments. Luke, I don't know if you've been bowling much. We haven't talked for. I have just started my season, and I got off to a roaring 604 myself.
Yeah, we've Medlands actually, our scratch draft league has been going 3 weeks now. Our Friday mixed league has been going a couple weeks too, and scores are down at Royal Crest, so we haven't had any honor scores for like the first 3 weeks, and that's different. So it's scores are a little down, but we're not throwing it too bad. So, and we're looking forward to the KCO next weekend. We got a bunch of people coming into town for that. We kind of freaked Jack Stack out because we said, "Hey, we have we make a reservation for 30." So, so yeah, we're gonna have a fun time next weekend. And yeah, we have had a couple weeks of league so far, and it hasn't been great, but it hasn't been terrible. I need to go just shoot 7 pins for like 3 or 4 hours straight. I think I've missed about half of them, but
spare's still not my issue. It's that first ball where they apparently not all want to fall down on the first shot. So spare not so much, but as you know, Summit Lane's getting new lanes in between KCO. So we're excited about that out there. It's been a while. They last week, and once it went away, it completely went away. So they're definitely, and anybody listening who's bowling that third week of the GKCO, I'm sure you've already some new lanes for you. More than likely, that's what's going to happen that week. We'll find out as the week goes. Unfortunately, we're up to 18 teams that weekend. So we're going to be doing that at 9 a.m. and then obviously we're going to have to move a few to 1 p.m. Unless they somehow get these installed. It's a big challenge, and they're doing approaches too. So that's going to make the
Yeah, that's gonna be a bunch of fun, and at the same time, it kind of is what it is. So, um, I don't know. It's going to be fun. I think it's actually going to be more interesting for the people bowling on the fresh install than the people bowling on what's already there. But I mean, you can. That's the funny thing is that people might blame it on a fresh install, but it could be the pair that you're on. It could be any number of things, whether you score well, score badly. I mean, it could be the humidity in the building that day. So there's so many up and downs with bowling that it's just one of those things you keep doing it. And it's funny how bowling works is that a career is kind of defined as a larger accumulation of good weeks than bad weeks. Because I mean, somebody like Walter Ray and Norm Duke that have won titles all over the place, have won 40 times, but they've bowled hundreds of tournaments over several decades, and they've just had more better weeks than everybody else has. So it's kind of funny how that works.
Hey, I got for you here real quick. It probably got like 500 comments in one day. Let's see what your thoughts. J.R. Raymond posted that if Earl Anthony bowled, and nowadays he would never make a shot. I went on there and I said with the ease of the shots and the way it's room for error that he may never miss the pocket. He might make every show. And I was being every part, but I was actually being honest as far as I think he'd make a lot of shows myself, never miss the pocket. So what are your thoughts on what Earl Anthony
I think it's one of those things. So as Earl Anthony got towards the end of his career and into the resin age, his somebody else said this, but his rev rate went up, his speed went up a little bit, and so I think it's just the eras are a little too different to kind of compare because people try to do this with Jordan and LeBron all the time, but I think that somebody that knows how to bowl and get the pins down, it's really interesting that you see. So yeah, you see a bunch of the two-handers, but Belmo has probably the best eye for ball reaction ever. Simo just knows how to get the pins down. Buttriff looks like an absolute catastrophe, but he gets the pins down. So all the people that are like winning tournaments right now, all the people that are winning tournaments are kind of unconventional. Like Anthony Simo just kind of runs to the line and it looks like he just runs to the line and chucks it. Same with Buttriff. Belmo's a little prettier, I guess you'd say. But yeah, the most successful people in the history of bowling have been the straighter bowlers. So we're talking Walter Ray, Norm Duke, Liz Johnson, Carolyn Doran Ballard, Tish Johnson, and then Belmo kind of works his way in there somewhere. I think Simo's eventually going to kind of get there too, but you have to give the edge to the bowlers that just keep it simple, that they hit the pocket repeatedly, and especially with as accurate as he is on the left side of the lane. Yeah, we have all kinds of debates about that, and we can talk to Carlson about that later. But at the same time, somebody like Matt McNeil doesn't really do a whole lot to the ball either, and he posts scores all the time. He's one of the best ever at the Open Championships, and so you have to give the edge to somebody that just kind of that just kind of puts it down the side and keeps it in play, keeps it simple. I think that he's one of those guys that just knows how to get the pins down. And that's, you see a lot of these bowlers now that they throw it really pretty, but sometimes throwing it pretty doesn't, or a lot of the time throwing it pretty doesn't get the pins down. You've got to know how to bowl. You've got to know how to get the pins down. And I think Earl was really good at that. And so you can speculate, but you can't really say it one way or the other. He was in a different era, so he might have been a different bowler in this era. So, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard comparing because it's not like basketball really changed a whole bunch between Michael Jordan and LeBron. Bowling has changed immensely between Earl and Belmo.
Gotcha. Now, did you see me come and go there? Did I get off for a bit?
Yeah, you might want to pop back out again because you've got all kinds of weird feedback going on. So I'd say pop back out and come back in. You're woot. There's another great week on the Bowler Show with all kinds of technical stuff. Yeah, it's making all kinds of noise for some reason, but that's a long answer. That's a long answer with no answer. Well, yeah, because I don't know. I'm one of these people that's kind of objective about stuff, and so I can't really say one way or the other whether he would have dominated or whether he would not have dominated. I don't really know. I would give him the benefit of the doubt, seeing as how, again, the best bowlers in history have been the people that keep it straight, keep it simple, and whatever else. So I would say that he would have factored in, but I don't know. It's a little too hard to kind of figure out.
Okay, Luke, do we have Matt in the queue, or is he still trying to connect?
He's still trying to connect, and you still sound really wonky.
All right, let me check with Matt and see how he's doing, and then we'll work on me.
He just popped back in here. So
okay, well let's save this disastrous opening of the show here. First of all, let's actually I don't even have my list of sponsors, so let's hope I got everybody down here. Storm, Roller Grip, I Am Bowling, Coolwick, SRGBBFS,
Bowler's
and
Mart,
wish I could see that. Bowler's Mart,
Turbo, Coolwick. What do I have over here? Cool, yeah.
also S&H Custom Homes, Double J's Pro Shop, and BobbyJacksons.com.
Yeah.
I think we got everybody in there. So how's my sounding?
It's pretty rough.
All right.
Yeah, there's some kind of, yeah.
I'm going to pop in and out one more time.
All right. Yeah, it's not a bowler show unless we have some kind of audio glitch. It's not the video stuff has very rarely been the issue. It's always the audio.
Yeah.
It's still throwing a fit. I don't know.
Maybe we should have gone back to radio like the old days and just gone with sound where we didn't have to look at ourselves, and maybe that would clear up some of the sound problems by not having.
Yeah. We just need to do a above 180 podcast or something where it's just sound and we don't have to worry about this nonsense.
Yeah. Anyway,
but
later in the
show, we do have Cabanski in the queue, so we can go on ahead and fire him up if you want to.
All right, let's bring him in. I know he was wanting to come in earlier, closest to 6 o'clock as we could. Once again, the brand manager for 900 Global, Matt Cabanski. Matt, welcome to the Bowler Show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Sorry for the connection issue. I'm on the phone, so it should be okay.
Connection issues are part of the bowler show, so it wouldn't be a bowler show unless we had connection issues. So it's all good.
I understand that. All the teams and everything. It's technology is great when it works.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, now before we get into all the tech talk and some of the good stuff that's coming out from 900 Global, talk a little bit about your own bowling here. You've been on a hot streak here lately.
Yeah, it's been good. When these balls, they can. I always tell people they can make anybody look good. So I'm, had back-to-back 300s with the reality check last week, and I 550 with it the week before that, and shot 220 the last game. Still a great night, but it didn't get it done. I mean, that ball's been great for me. I jokingly tell everybody, I'm like, ball going down the lane for me. It's hard to miss. So that's been good, and the game feel kind of falling into place, and timing and everything doesn't feel horrible for once. So for that, and we're gonna hopefully continue it. And we got a lot of local tournaments and whatnot. Hanging on, plugging my power source in here. I'm running a little low on juice. But yeah, no, bowling's been good lately. So like I said, it helps when you have these. Just trying to get a little better than I was yesterday.
As brand manager, when you're bowling, obviously you've got other people asking you a bunch of questions about the balls, and especially the newer ones. How do you kind of balance your bowling versus trying to, bring out new equipment and, of course, let other people know about the new stuff?
Well, lucky for me, I've kind of got a reputation in my local area. A lot of people in that moment in bowling, a lot of people, they really don't talk to me a whole lot because they know that I'm when I'm bowling, and I don't like to be bothered a whole lot. So if a lot of people wait till I'm done, and then we talk and say, okay, this I see this out of the other ball. I think this would be a good situation for this ball, that ball. So that part's been fine. Guarded sometimes, but for the most part, it's been fine. I always interested. It's not that. It's just when I'm bowling, I kind of like to be left alone. Everybody that knows me kind of knows that. So it's been fine. And when we do my best, it is that's my job. Bowling isn't my job. The brand manager is my job. And always trying to get a little better.
All right, I'm looking at your Facebook right now, and you got a picture with Giorgio and Daria, and somehow West High slid into the picture. What's going on there?
Giorgio and Daria came down to bowl some local stuff in San Antonio. His colleague, the director of marketing at Global, Dale Garner, showed up. We kind of had a little reunion of somebody, now that with Global being officially a part of Storm. I'm standing when it comes to Global. And Wes has been, he has another job now. It's good to see the old crew. Giorgio and Daria are down here right now. There's weekends. So we had one on Saturday, and then there was one more today, and then there's one on, I'll be heading out of town. I won't be bowling that one, but it's great to see everybody again. It's been a long time.
Well, a couple of years ago, they let lower-end staffers like myself throw 900 Global for the first time. So we saw in our chat online, everybody was asking, hey, what, I think they were asking you especially and some of the other 900 guys, what should we get? And, of course, 9 out of 10 people said the Zen. What makes that ball so good? It's still so good now. We see it all the time. Our on house shots all around town. Not that it's not good on other stuff, but it's just a house shot monster. What's the magic touch of that ball?
Well, there's a few things. When you look at the core, that weight block is one of the last ones that along with the reality is one of the last ones that we've in Antonio, and we kind of had to reverse engineer them to fit all the Utah processes. And that's massive. The volume that it takes up is just it barely fit in the outer core. The Utah is a smaller outer core, so we had to kind of go backwards on it. But just block is so big, it's so dense. For everybody that you can see throwing it, you can see that it wants to kind of get going real. When you look at that versus the reality almost acts like the symmetric because it's a bit the Zens for everybody. I mean, they want to get up and go off of whoever's hand. So footprint on the lane, going back to your question of what makes it so good, it creates a very, it transitions. It's not a skid flip ball. It's a pearl. It doesn't really act like a pearl. These squirty ones, you don't feel like it's going to miss the spot because it does have a pearl cover, but it's also got that giving you kind of that confidence that the ball's going to see it. So it's like I said, it's just very strong, very continuous, and a very unique piece. It's just unlike anything we've ever seen before. So, and it's the one selling global ball of all time, and it took about 3 months to get there. It blew the gold honey. As far as what makes it so successful, I think the long story short, it checks every single box very well. It's not an A+ in any one area, minus to B+ in every single area for every single bowler, and there'll always be a spot for a bowler.
Yeah, on a side note, when that first night we were allowed to throw the balls, I told people, hey, this is from 900 Global. I'm going to bowl 900. And I had the front 14, so I was extremely close to doing that. But I actually threw 300 with the ordnance on the recommendation of somebody.
Yeah.
And take a moment here. I'm going to turn it over to Luke here. He is the tech guy. I'm really bad at what's going on the inside of bowling balls, but Right now, the reality check is really hot around these parts. Let's take a moment and talk about that, Bob.
Yeah, it's a brand new cover for us. It's the same core that's on the reality, asymmetric, but it's also a single piece, very, very similar to the Zen, but it's a totally designed to be a very, very large piece. Took up a lot of volume. The reality is actually a bit smaller piece, but it's a totally different shape. Again, I think it acts more like the cement, acts like the asymmetric, because you can see the ball wanting to lock up for people and get going pretty quick. That makes them both unique. And yes, the reality check, same core like I said, but it's got a new beta, which is different than the S84 response in the fact that it's much cleaner and the response was very grabby. And your typical big hooking, and the beta was designed to be cleaner and more responsive, and maybe a bit more usable on some of it all the time. There's no oil in my center. There's no oil in my center. I can't throw this. I can't throw that. So a bit more usability in mind. And when you're looking total hook, I think the reality, is still it's a totally different shape with this new cover. So excited for it. I've had great success with it so far. It's like a cheat code almost for me. I really have much the new Wolverine, and a lot of people have said how wonderful that is. I've thrown it a bit, but it's tough it's fun for me. It really is.
All right, Luke, it's time for you to hit him with the tech talk here. Let's everybody set your VCRs now, and you will your IQ points in bowling are going to go up.
Yeah. So it's really interesting that the reality check feels familiar to the other realities, but like you said, it's a totally different look. It's a whole lot cleaner up front. That's one of the biggest things that we noticed. It's a whole lot cleaner up front, but it still doesn't miss the spot, and it almost kind of fakes you out with how much the ball actually responds, because it's one of those things where it looks like it's just going down the lane, and then it picks up whether you're playing straight, whether you're playing deep. It gives you length from straighter angles. It gives you, but it also gives you the hook and the finish from deeper angles.
Yes.
So it's a very unique kind of interesting ball. And I know that people like to throw terms around like that, where they say this is unique, this is different. But the Zen is, again, like you said, it's a pearl ball, but it almost acts like people would think a traditionally like polished solid would be. It's very consistent. It controls the mid lane really well. It's a staffer's favorite ball to describe, because it controls the mid lane, but it does get length, it does get pop, but it also is blendy, it's smooth, it's continuous, it's all these kind of buzzwords that people like to talk about.
Yeah, it's I think I think they complement each other very well, and you throw in like a burner pearl there. I think he pearls in and a burner pearl. I think you can cover about 90% of what you'd see out there. You might want to have a year to mix in for some of the shorter stuff, but those three balls with the right surface prep, when you look at layouts, I think Zens in general are better with weaker layouts, longer. I think realities, you can get a little more aggressive with your layouts. You can probably get some 4.5s, something like that for that way. So they're all, like I said, it's kind of backwards. The asymmetric is almost it's different, and it's not exactly the way we planned it, but it's kind of the way it worked out. So it really has.
Yeah, and that's really interesting because the Zens do feel like they're almost earlier. They control the mid lane a little bit more, and then they're blendier off the end of the pattern. The reality, even the solid, the original reality, it even gets pretty far down the lane and has quite a bit of shape for a hook monster. But that's very interesting how all these things kind of work together. And I describe the burner pearl as kind of like a baby Zen, because it acts like it's a little bit longer and stronger, and it's weaker overall, but it does have kind of that same shape. So when it comes, I mean, you guys put a lot of work. I've talked to Chad McLean a lot. I've talked to Alex. I've talked to Schlemmer. We'll pull him back in whenever he reconnects here. Love these connections. Yeah. Yep.
He's with the kids. There he is.
Yeah. So anyway, so I kind of described, like you were just saying about the burner pearl, I kind of described it as a baby Zen because it's a little longer, it's a little bit sharper, but it does resemble it from kind of a roll perspective. So when you're designing stuff to fit within, yeah, he's having some connection issues. I'm going to pop one of these questions in here. Altered reality versus the check, how much different are they? The altered is, it's a little bit earlier, it's a little bit smoother, but it's still very punchy. The reality check is longer and sharper overall, but it's kind of, the altered reality is one of those where it's long and pretty sharp, but it just doesn't miss the spot. I mean, it's one of those things that it gets down there and it turns sideways. The reality check's longer than the other two realities, but it also does not miss the spot. It hooks a bunch for how much. It's kind of weird because it kind of fakes you out. It hooks a bunch for how much length it gets and how much sharpness it has. But anyway,
Yeah, it really does.
so when you're designing stuff to fit within the line, you kind of got you go back and forth, but you've got the burner line right now. You've got the honey badgers to kind of play with. You've got the Zens. You've got the realities. So when you're looking at the next ball in the line, what is kind of your philosophy as far as, you want to plug certain holes, or you want to look for, okay, do we have this kind of reaction, this kind of reaction, this kind of reaction? What is your general philosophy, or what do you kind of look for? What do you kind of lean into as what you want to see when it comes to designing the next ball?
No comment.
Yep, he was trying to comment.
Yeah, this is this reminds me of the old days, back in the actual radio days where we just couldn't keep people in contact. So, Matt,
Yeah. Again, technology, like you said, technology is wonderful when it.
I heard him there. Did you hear him, Luke?
Yeah, he's in here somewhere.
Matt, if you can hear us, just say anything. And he can't hear us. All right, Luke's going to try a few magical things here, so stand by. He looks like he's moving maybe to a different location.
Yeah, he's trying to find some better connection. So
He's inside a building right now with a bunch of kids, so he may not have too many good spots to go to where there's service. And he's gone.
yep.
So, Luke, I personally haven't bowled much in the last 2 or 3 months, so I haven't really, I still have a Zen, of course. I drilled up a new one for Nationals, but I haven't had a chance to throw the Wolverine Dark Moss or the reality check much. So, have you had a chance to throw those?
I haven't thrown either of them. James, Mr. Kniffen, the K is silent. He drilled the reality check that we got. Angel drilled the Wolverine Dark Moss that we got. I think Angel actually drilled. Yeah, we got Angel a reality check too. And the reality check is, like I said, again, familiar to the other realities, but it's a completely different kind of look. It's funny to say, well, yeah, it's familiar to the other one, so you can tell it's a reality, but the look on the lane is quite a bit different. The Wolverine Dark Moss is the same as the original Wolverine. It's just the Dark Moss comes at 4K fast versus the original polish, and green must be a naturally kind of smoother ball reaction, because the same thing happened with the IQ, with the gold ball, the IQ Tour Pearl, the gold ball versus the IQ Emerald. The Emerald is kind of accepted to be the earlier and smoother one, and the Wolverine Dark Moss is a little bit earlier and smoother. The 4K fast versus 1500 grit polish notwithstanding, the Dark Moss is a little bit earlier, a little bit smoother than the original Wolverine, but it's the same ball. I mean, it's got the same cover, it's got the same core. So for all intents and purposes, it's the same ball, but pigment color does factor into the overall ball reaction. So the Dark Moss is a little bit earlier, a little bit smoother, but that kind of works out for it too. So that's been pretty popular. The Reality Check's been pretty popular. And we'll see what they have coming next.
Well, that's interesting, because I really never thought about ball cover or ball color, creating a different type of roll or a smoother roll. But now that you say that, when you think of the IQ Emerald, obviously it was a smooth rolling ball overall. So
yeah, and
I've messaged Matt, just so you know, and told him that if he can get back on here, we got plenty of time for him. And unfortunately, it looks like he might be gone for the rest of the show, but we shall see. So.
Yeah, that's okay. We can talk about some other stuff, hit some comments here. But remember when the Ebonite Mission came out? That's the red one that Kelly Kulick won the Tournament of Champions with, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years ago. But they famously said that they tested that ball in 21 different colors, and that the red pearl that they landed on, reacted the best. And so certain colors do kind of factor into it, because some colors are a little bit earlier and smoother, some are longer and flippier. And so it's really, I don't know how much they actually pay attention to, or how much color actually factors into, okay, well, we want to go with these colors, but we feel like this ball reacts better with these colors, so we're going to change it up. That might be something interesting to ask Mr. Cabanski if we have a better connection here. So we're talking about ball color as it relates to ball reaction, and it's not necessarily a significant difference, but how much does the color factor into the reaction when you go about designing balls? Or do you just kind of say, hey, we want these colors, and we're just going ahead and this core looks good with this cover on it and these colors, so we're just going to go with it.
That was so close.
Mm-hmm.
He's outside now, as you can see, and we can hear the outside sound. So don't know if he can hear us though.
Mm-hmm.
So close, and yet so far. I'll give a nickel to anybody in the chat who can tell me what song that is from. My Eyes Adored You. Matt just me, Luke, and said he has no audio.
Okay. Yeah, and sometimes this stuff's kind of wonky, so we can always. There we go. It was close.
I just let him know we could hear him on his end, or we heard the outside, the wind, and the dinging of the car, so we could hear him on his end. I guess he just couldn't hear us, so maybe I just send him a list of questions in the chat and let it go.
Well, I might just kind of, let me try something different here. Well, let's go back to the.
I'll let him know you're FaceTiming it.
Yeah, let's try this. I'll put him on Facebook Messenger.
This has been our out before. It's worked before, so
yeah.
He might have you blocked. Huh?
Yeah. I don't know. I got to meet Matt at him and Gio at Nationals. and they were bowling. They actually ended up bowling a Bowler's Journal squad not right next to us, and it'd been a long weekend, and we were pretty tired. And I don't necessarily like talking a lot to people while I'm bowling either. So yeah, can't get him on the instant messenger. So
I'm gonna have him try to call you, so stand by.
yeah.
More than one way, Skinny Cat. Let me look back in the chat here. I know Benji's been asking some stuff here. Do you think the reality check reminds you of Phase 4 at all?
Not really. It's really different because what stuff looks like on a video. I don't know how many times we've been out filming something, and then I'll start kind of. I normally take my laptop and we film some stuff. I write down my thoughts, and then I get back and I download the video. I start chopping it up or editing all the dead space out, and then I start writing my thoughts down. And it's interesting how different sometimes it looks, or how different it feels from how it looks. So I'll be out there bowling with something, and I'm like, holy crap, there's a big difference between this ball and this other ball. And then I look at them on video, and I'm like, well, I sound like an idiot because these look virtually identical. It's kind of interesting because the check is very familiar to the Phase 2 on video. It has that really archy, continuous, gradual kind of climbing motion to it. The reality check is longer and sharper, but it's at a different surface. If you have a Phase 2 that's lane shined or polished, that looks very, very similar to the reality check, but the reality check is asymmetric, so it has more torque. It has more boom on the back end, basically. And so I could see the Phase 4 kind of somewhat resembling a reality check, but my Phase 4 was quite a bit earlier, quite a bit chuggier. The reality checks are cleaner, they're sharper, they're asymmetric, so they have more torque. So I don't necessarily see it, but it does kind of resemble a lane shine Phase 2 or something. So I can kind of get the general phase shape, but it's also a little bit different too.
Okay, Matt tried to call you on FaceTime. He just has no connection where it is. So
Yeah, I haven't got anything, so we can just we can catch up with him at a different time.
Yeah, I told him that through chat, so we'll check in with him. Luke, before you get to any more questions in there, I've got a question for you.
There we go. I got Matt on the. Let's do this.
I guess my phone's working. It's just my internet is not great.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
All right. Let's go on ahead and.
Let me know when we're on. I know the question you asked about just how to develop stuff, and I can pick up.
Yep, we're good. You're on. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And really the best answer that I have is, I mean, in my personal opinion, the worst thing that can possibly happen is have somebody pick up a 900 global ball and say, well, this is the exact same thing as a Storm or Roto ball. We want them all be different.
Yeah.
So not only do you want things to work within your own line, to work in tandem with each other and to complement each other, but you want them to complement the other guy's line too. And you don't want to step on any toes. You don't want to, if say Roto's coming out with a dull symmetric, and we don't want to have a dull symmetric at the same time. We want to make sure that ours is something different. So we want everything to work. And with 3 brands, I think we've gotten away with it pretty well. Everything has a place, and I don't think there's too many gaps. Everything's really gone pretty darn well. So. When you're looking at developing something within my own line, I'm always going to be the smallest of the 3. We have grown quite a bit, but comparatively speaking, we're still kind of the little guy. So I've got a very limited amount of releases, and I want to cover as much ground as possible as I can with as few releases as possible. So so far, I think we've done that. With the versatility of the Zens, the burners, the realities, we're pretty well covered. That's really my main focus. Is when we do come out with something, I want it to be, something that's going to cover as many conditions as possible, and something that's not going to be as, super condition specific.
Yeah, that's really interesting. What kind of freedom does it give, or what kind of freedom do you have to kind of try things? Because you mentioned that the Zen isn't necessarily what people think of. Like when people think shiny pearl, they think it's going to go 50 feet and turn sideways. When they think solid, they're going to think early and smooth. But almost everything within the global line kind of flips that on its head, because the Zen is very controllable. It's kind of blendy. The reality is one of the longest and sharpest, hook monsters I think that I've ever thrown. So how much of it is like just throwing darts and seeing what sticks on the board, and how much of it, I mean, you say that you obviously you have to pay attention to what Storm and Roto is doing, but how much freedom do you kind of have to say, you know what, this looks good, let's try this, let's go on ahead and throw the dart at the board and see what sticks?
As far as actual releases go, those are going to be very planned out. Those are going to be something that we've all got to agree on. There's a lot more hoops to jump through as far as actual release goes. But as far as just trying something out, pretty much unlimited freedom as far as doing like an R&D project with Wlx Hoskins or whoever it may be, the team up there. We do throw lots of darts at the boards, and we do throw a lot of stuff against the wall and see what sticks. And which a lot of it is trial and error. But as far as freedom goes, on the R&D side, pretty much unlimited. When it comes to the actual stuff that's going to go into catalogs and all that stuff, that's a little bit more planned out. But that comes from the R&D. We don't make a ball just to make it. It's going to get run through the ringer pretty good. We don't want to, especially since I do have fewer releases, I want to make sure that they're all good and they're all have their place and are going to be successful. So as far as freedom goes, R&D, yeah, absolutely. We can do anything, try out anything, and then see how it works in production. But when you look at the actual ball releases, yeah, a little bit, few more rules there that you got to follow. But still, it really hasn't been too bad. We've been very lucky. We've got a home run with the Reality Core. We've got a grand slam with the Zen Core. It really doesn't matter kind of what you put around it. We've got the best covers out there, in my opinion. But those cores are both so good. They make it a bit easier. So, but freedom wise, pretty flexible.
Yeah, and so when it comes to having stuff that that you can lean into, I mean, you can do virtually anything with the Zens, and now the Zens, the Realities. Once you kind of build a name like that, how do you kind of look at leaning into that? Say like what Hammer's done with the Black Widows. They just it's like they put all the chips in that one basket. They have that amazing core, and they're just like, well, we're going to be unapologetic about it. We're just going to keep making Black Widows. How much do you lean into that? But how much do you also want to say, you know what? I know that we're going to keep putting Zens out. We're going to keep putting Realities out, but you got to think about mixing it up a little bit too. So, so what? How do you kind of balance that?
It's tough. It's a fine line. You mentioned the Black Widows. I go back even further. Look at what Brunswick did. How many zones were there? There had to be 1,000 zones. I mean, there was a zone of the week. We used to always joke when I was in juniors.
Yep.
But yeah, it's tough. When you do have a winner, whether it be a Zen Core, a Black Widow, a zone, whatever it may be, whenever you've got something that you've really hit on, you want to make sure you've explored all options before you completely get rid of it. But at the same time, you don't want it to get stagnant either. So, so far we haven't hit that point yet. We had Zen Master, and even though that's been discontinued, it acted a lot more like a traditional release. When you look at the Zen, it kind of just cruised along, did whatever for the first, couple months, and then it just something or several factors just led to it shooting up. I mean, it wasn't a 45-degree or 60-degree angle up. It was straight up. It was 90 degrees. It was unreal. Zen Master, when you look at it, that acted more like a much more, it was hotly anticipated. In the first 90, 120 days, was very hot, and then it just dropped off the table. Zen Soul, we released it at kind of a funny time. It was in May, but it was our first release after all the USDC stuff, so it was something we had to do.
Yeah.
And that one's done very well, and I think you're gonna see an uptick with the season starting, because a lot of people just waited to get it. So far we really haven't hit that point with the Zens or the realities for that matter. When we do, we've got several projects that are ready to go. Like I said, we do a lot of R&D. We've got things that are in the queue and pretty much good to go. It's just, you don't want to go to the well too many times, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're not missing anything. So we can do a lot with covers. We can do a lot with the cores. We're always exploring new technology and new tweaks to things to make them a little bit better and maybe a little bit different. It's been it's a balancing act. It really is. And like I said, I guess I don't have a great answer because we haven't hit that point yet with the Zen. We really haven't. I don't feel like it's become stagnant. Nobody's told us that from the field. We just got done with all the trade shows. Everybody's just they're very much still on board with it all because they know what it is. And I want the Zen to be like the IQ Tour or the High Road. I want that to be around 10, 12 years. There's no reason that it shouldn't be. It's just it really is that good.
Yeah, and I don't really think. I think it's one of those things that it is kind of considered like that already. I know it's only been out for a couple of years now, but I think people have already put it in that kind of category where they're like, I want to see this ball be around for a while because it is kind of, again, like an IQ Tour, High Road. Schlem even has that kind of thing with the idles going. He knows he can put an idle out there and that's got that recognition, and he's got different covers he can play with. And now you've got that. So far the Zens have just had the S77 cover on it, but now with this S84 beta, you can play. You can start playing around with covers, and I think with as early and kind of rolly as that core is, if you put something a little bit cleaner and flippier on it, you've got all kinds of stuff that you can kind of play with and test out. And again, that the reality check is familiar to the reality line, but it gives you a very different look when it comes to the actual performance and ball reaction.
Yes, yeah, no, it does. And look, we're always, the cores are one thing, but as good as the cores are, what part of the ball touches the lane? The core never touches the lane or the pins. The cover is, I'm a big cover guy.
Yeah,
I'm a big surface guy. Surface can alter a reaction massively. We're always messing around with covers. I think covers, new cover stock technology is something that we're always working very closely with our vendors and whatnot is to always stay on top of that and make sure we're not missing anything. And there's a lot of combinations that we can play around with and that we have played around with. So it's when you've got the good weight blocks and you compare them with the good covers, you end up with something like a Zen, or you end up with something like an IQ Tour or an Idol that's going to have staying power, and that makes our job that much easier. You don't feel like you're always swinging wild to try to find something. We've got it. It's just a matter of executing it. That's all that it is.
Yeah, I'm a big cover formula guy too. The cores are fairly mathematic. You can do some different things with densities and core shapes and whatever else to make them act a little bit different. Those are fairly mathematical, but the cover formulas are something that you can play with and alter quite a bit. You can put a different formula. Cores are going to they're going to be familiar, but you, again, with just the difference between like the reality, the altered, and then the reality check, you can see how the core kind of binds them all together, but the formulas and then the versions of the formulas, whether it's a Pearl version of this formula, and you can see it in the Zens too, because it's technically the same cover formula, but different versions of those formulas do different things. And then when you have different versions of different cover formulas, you can mix and match and have just have a bunch of fun with all that stuff.
Correct. It is. It really is. at the old Global plant, you mentioned the cores being mathematical. Our ex-engineer was very much a numbers guy, and I'm numbers to a point. But his argument was you could have a tall, skinny core with the exact same RG and diff as a short fat core.
Yeah.
And he says that the numbers are the numbers. The performance is going to be exactly the same. And I said, I don't see how that's possible, because you look at how quickly the drill bit contacts the inner core.
Yeah.
You're going to change the dynamics quicker. You're going to change the shape quicker on a taller core versus a shorter, fatter core.
Yeah.
So numbers are, we don't throw the numbers out the window. Absolutely not. But core shape, absolutely. I think it makes a big difference. And I think we mentioned the Zen earlier, how big it is, how volumetrically massive it is. And it acts completely different than the smaller, more compact reality core. Even though you're looking at RGs and diffs that are pretty darn close, you've got asymmetry with the realities.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you can even compare a Zen to like an Axiom. Look at the Axiom core versus the Zen core. The numbers are right on top of each other. You're looking at 249, 050 something, 051, whatever. Yeah. But those two balls act completely different.
Yeah,
it's the core shape.
Yeah, and even when you talk about the idles, it's 249, 052, and so all those cores are kind of
close.
Yeah, they're all on top of each other, but they have different shapes, and when you drill into them, they create different looks based on how you drill them. And that I love I love the tech stuff, and so I love talking about stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then certain core shapes have different they have different zones on the lane that they like to play. They have different things that they kind of like to do, and so it's very interesting playing with that stuff.
It is. It's an exact science, but and like you said with the covers, the cores can get a little bit. I think those would trend more towards an exact science, whereas the covers, those are a bit more inexact. You're a lot of times you're just trying to replicate something that you find that works. So it's a lot of moving and shaking, but when you are able to hit on something like luckily that we have, and obviously Storm and Roto have more than proven themselves, it just makes it that much easier on everybody else, because you're just kind of, once you have your baseline, your foundation, you're just building up on it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah. So when it comes to 900 Global is kind of the little guy, so to speak, so far in the Storm SPI brands, but you have something gigantic with the Zen. The Zen line, you still got the Honey Badgers in there. That's that's been a very recognizable name for several years now. And then you bring the realities into it. I know that we had the kind of the USB-C thing, but we've got the Dark Moss back. We've got something like a Czech. The Zen's still going strong. So as far as the general overall company goes, I guess I'm kind of rambling now. I don't. I feel like you guys. I feel like you guys have got you've got some very recognizable stuff now with the Zen. You can still throw a Honey Badger out there. You've got some really great covers. You've got some really great cores. I'm really excited to see what you guys have coming next. How do you? I know that you can't really tell us what you got coming next, but how do you feel about your kind of standing in the overall industry?
Oh, it's very, very good. I did a good amount of trade shows last year. I did a good amount this year, and I tell everybody the same thing. I said it's everything with the exception of the USB-C nonsense. Everything's gone perfectly. We're about a year to year and a half ahead of where I thought we'd be at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's gone very well. All the balls you just rattled off are all good. There's one that everybody forgets about. The issue is that it came out the exact same time the Zen did, and it just got run over. Was the Ordnance C4?
Yes.
And you can see that on the women's tour. The ladies threw that ball.
They're still using it. Yeah, they're still using it. They throw it a bunch. They're still using it. I see it quite a bit.
I've talked with the reps about it, with Sean Ryan and Callahan, and the way I kind of, not that I sold it to them, but the way that I described it was, this is our IQ tour. It really is. It's basically a control type piece. It's not solid. It's hybrid, and you get a little bit more diff with it. So it might corner a little harder than an IQ tour for some. I don't think it's going to quite rev up as quick as an IQ tour might, but it's very similar. So that ball really got lost in the shuffle, and it's a shame because it's a great benchmark piece, and it's something that I think every bowler needs. And it's different from the IQ tour. It's not just another IQ tour. It's different enough, and you can justify having both. with different layouts and surfaces and everything, you can create some separation. You can have kind of a benchmark 1-2 punch. So, yeah, as far as our standing goes, I'm extremely happy. Everything's gone, very, very well, and it's going to continue to go well. We've got a lot of smart people working on a lot of future projects and things that we're looking to expand in the small but always mighty global line. And we're excited to get them out there. It's kind of getting to that point now where maybe Zens and realities, they aren't getting stagnant, but we need to kind of mix it up a little bit. I'm a big fan of, you look at our 900 series, let's have some different core shapes. Let's just not have a reality core shape. Let's have another asymmetric.
Yeah.
Same goes for the Zen line. Let's do a different core shape in there. Let's have multiple core options within each line. Storm and Roto do that. I think Global makes sense to do it too. So excited for the future, and very, very much looking forward to getting the future projects out there. We're going to have some stuff in November for everybody, the way it's looking right now. So always subject to change, but looks good. It looks good at this moment. Yeah,
I'm a pretty big fan of what you guys are doing right now. It was nice to meet you and Gio at Nationals. It was. I told Mark Anderson this. I see him at Nationals every year, but I don't necessarily. I'm not the type of person that wants to kind of walk over to somebody and say, "Hey, I make ball videos. I'm a pretty big deal." So.
Don't worry, Mark will let you know what he thinks. So there's no secrets with him.
Well, and I'm not necessarily after Bowling Nationals, a squad of Bowlers Journal, and then a second squad of Bowlers Journal, left-handed. I didn't have a great weekend necessarily, and I don't really like to be chatty while I'm bowling either. And so,
agreed. We were right next to each other during the Bowlers Journal, and I think all I said to you was, "I like your videos," or something like that, and that was it. So
that's
totally fine.
I tried to play it cool too. I knew exactly who you guys are, and it was very nice to meet you. But it had been a long weekend. We hadn't slept a whole lot, and I figured, you know what, I'll talk to this guy at some point again. So it's it's all good. But I really big fan of what you're doing. I like the stuff. It's obviously been very popular, and when you have a ball that backs up, when you have one ball that single-handedly backs up production for a little while, I think you can kind of,
Oh yeah, man, it was crazy there for a little bit. It was, look, you like to have some red numbers every now and then, have a little demand out there, but it got flat out terrifying with that one. It was, it was scary. So, but luckily for us, the shops and everybody, their customers, were all waiting for it. They all wanted it. Your biggest fear when you're that far behind is, well, I can't get this in today. I'm going to get something else. I want it. People were waiting, so it was. Again, you don't want to go to that well too many times, but it was pretty cool to see, because from where the global brand is just, we've never been to anything like this before. So it is all virgin territory to me, but it was a ride. Yeah. And still going too.
As they say, it's a good problem to have, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it.
All right. I've got one more question for you before we let you go. First, a comment. I went out to my garage, and unfortunately, I pulled out my afterburner, and it is play around. It was my favorite ball here for round
afterburner.
Very little oil. So I was crushed by that. But some people in chat are wanting to know about the honey badgers and anything with paw prints on it. I want to make sure we asked you that before. Like Luke said, we know you can't talk specifically, but is there a possibility down the road of something in that line coming around?
Translation: he was asking about honey badgers. He said he's lost his afterburner, and he was asking about some more paw prints. My wife and I are rescue dog people, and so my wife is crazed about all things honey badger, and so we've got the balls, we've got the chamois, we've got the bags, we've got whatever else. So just tell me we haven't forgotten about the honey badgers, and we can move on.
No, honey badgers will never be forgotten. They're always in the mix. They're always around. So we'll definitely revisit them at some point.
Sounds good.
All right, Luke, I don't think Matt can hear me, so why don't you go ahead and leave him out?
Yeah. Thanks a bunch, Matt, for joining the show tonight. It was a bunch of fun to talk to you, and
Yeah,
look forward to
thanks for
talking
having
to
me.
you again sometime. Look forward to seeing what you've got coming around the corner. Obviously, everybody's happy about the Dark Moss replaced because the
Yes.
Wolverine was very popular, and so people were sad to see it go. They're glad to see a replacement for it. There's plenty of people they're wanting an altered reality replacement, of course, but the reality check, while maybe not a replacement for that, is a very awesome option for people to have in their
Yes.
bags right now. The burner line's great. The Wolverine Dark Moss is great. The Zens are great. The Reality's great. The lineup is amazing. Really love it. Thanks for joining
Appreciate that.
us and fighting through the tech issues, and we appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to seeing future shows. And let me know if any questions come up. Always happy to help.
Yep, definitely.
All right.
Yep, thanks a bunch, Matt.
All right. Thanks. Bye bye.
Yep, bye.
Right. Always more than one way to skin a cat. Good job, Luke, getting him on and getting him to where you could get a lot of the good tech stuff there. I just learned a bunch just listening to you guys, and I really was crushed when I saw that afterburner cracked all the way around. I'll have
Yeah.
to get with them and get another one, or maybe just move on to something in the line, as that ball I don't believe is available anymore.
Yeah, the afterburners were a little bit different. They've gone to from the afterburners to the burners, and I think that the afterburner and the burner pearl aren't exactly the same thing. The burner pearl is great. That the hustle wine, the electrify pearl, all of these kind of exist in the same space, but the burner pearl is a little bit closer to like a hyped pearl. The numbers, there's extra differential for the burners over like the hustle and electrifies, but it's not quite. Again, it's a little bit weaker cover, I think, than the hypes use. Even though the core numbers are kind of similar, so I think that there's a decent amount of space between stuff, but there's enough kind of not necessarily redundancy, but kind of overlap to where you can mix and match and not have exactly the same thing, but have something similar enough to where you've always got a replacement for something that they don't have anymore, whether it's an afterburner that Global doesn't necessarily have anymore. Maybe you can replace that with a Hustle Wine or an Electrified Pearl, or when like the hype line, if any of those start getting discontinued, well, the burner line is close enough on the numbers to those that you can kind of work your way through things.
All right, Luke, is our next guest ready to go in the queue, or is he showing up yet?
I haven't seen him yet, but we can go on ahead. I can go on ahead and ping him and see how close if he's ready to hop in here. So.
Okay. I just sent him a message a couple of minutes ago. No reply yet. But also,
Yeah.
sometimes since it's the 7 o'clock hour, play Bobby Jackson's commercial. We'll get him in once again. Thanks to Angel for producing the show. Didn't get her mentioned at the start. Make sure that we do, because she's sending out the links. She's watching. She's taking care of everything.
Yep, I'll go on ahead and play the Bobby Jackson's commercial, and we'll see about our next guest here. So.
Bobby Jackson's Trading is the place to sell all your unwanted precious metals, including broken gold and silver jewelry. They also buy old silver and gold coins, so check them out for all your buying and selling needs. Also, did you know that Bobby Jackson's Trading pays top dollar for your unwanted gift cards? You know, the ones your grandma got you for Christmas? Bobby Jackson's Trading is located on 23rd Street, just one block east of Noland Road in Independence, Missouri. They're open 7 days a week. Check them out at bobbyjacksons.com or give Bob Foster a call at 816-463-1919. That's 816-463-1919.
And we're back on the other side.
Boy, you should have heard the commercial from my end, Luke, with the sound problems. Overall, it sounded like you were talking on a 78 RPM, whatever it was back in the day when you played it. It was funny to listen to. I don't know what's going on with all our stuff, but haven't seen anything from our next guest, so I'm not sure. You may have to give him a call on FaceTime and let him know because he was ready to go. I talked to him an hour ago, and he said he was good.
Yep. He was just kind of hanging out waiting, so I think he's going to go on ahead and hop in here, and we can talk about all things left-handed, sleeves versus no sleeves, tribal tattoos, and his expertise in robotics.
Yeah,
So,
that stuff, but the robotics thing, I don't know who picked that up or who coined that. Obviously, with him repeating so many honor scores, I think that might be where it originated. Maybe he's into robotics. I don't know. Maybe he is a robot. It seems like sometimes.
That's kind of what they say is that he's a robot because he just kind of goes out there and shoots honor scores all the time. I have no idea how he does it. I think there was one tournament in Belton, and Belton's not necessarily favorable for lefties. I'd rather be bowling something else, but I felt like I bowled really well this particular day, and I still didn't have the greatest day, but he just kind of ran over the field. And I don't think Trevor had that great of a day either. Packy didn't have that great of a day. Brandon somehow still did really well. And so I went up to him, and he was waiting in line to get paid. And I'm like, how the heck did you actually score today? Like, he's always posting about his 300s, his 800s, whatever else. I should have sent Billy Hutch something and let him know that Brandon was going to be on tonight. But Billy and Brandon bowled a lot of tournaments together, and I don't know. I told this to somebody else on Thursday. Kinsey Miller subbed in our scratch draft league the other night, and she made me look bad. She made all the righties on the pair look bad, and this is including a guy that's got 2 eagles. And I said, you know what? You need to stop this because I try to tell people how difficult this is over here. You're making me look bad. You're making me look like a liar. And but yeah, Brandon Carlson's just even worse about that. Like, he's got this perfect game. He's got this Jacob Buttriff. He just kind of, he's got a big rev rate. He's got a lot of speed. He just kind of sends it into the friction, lets it walk up. He's very unassuming. I mean, he walks in. He's got these tribal tattoos. He's normally got this cutoff shirt. He's got a baseball hat on, and he just goes and gets work done. And it's like, how are you actually doing this? But he's something else. So we're gonna try to get him on here. So I'll send him something here and.
I talked to him in chat. He knows to click the link. I just don't know if he's able to get on here.
Yeah, he's probably. I think we emailed it to him. He'll be in here momentarily.
But yeah, he's a couple of years ago, I heard people whispers behind the scenes, hey, this guy's good, but he's only good on house shots, and then you can spray it. I tried to debunk that theory pretty early on. He's got enough loft and he's got enough power where he can change, not necessarily change patterns, but he can kind of create his own break point.
Yeah.
His loft and his speed, and I've seen him score better than the field a lot of times on tougher patterns, and that's not always the case with guys who have a lot of power and have a lot of speed and seemingly only have one way. So that's something that I noticed early on. A lot of people like, hey, this guy, of course he's been a moral house shots, but he's just as good, and he's done just as good in our tournaments on some of the tougher shots.
Yeah. So, all right, I got him here on the sides. I'm gonna go ahead and add him in. Welcome, Mr. Carlson.
Brandon, can you hear us?
Yeah, try to hit the settings and change your microphone settings.
Is that better?
Yeah, there you go. All right, yeah, sometimes this software likes to do really interesting things, and it likes to default the microphone to absolutely the worst choice it could possibly go to. So,
On the intro, I said that we were going to have you in to talk about robotics and the pros and cons of sleeves versus no sleeves, and tell everybody how difficult the left side of the lane is. And so, speaking of all your accolades, what I know that you just posted another 300 the other day. It's, I don't know, several dozen for the year now. So, just what's going on with Brandon, and how you been doing in tournaments here lately?
Been doing pretty well overall. Ups and downs, obviously, like everything. But I do a lot of the SASPA tournaments lately down south in the Oklahoma, Texas area, and I would say I've done pretty well down there. I've cashed pretty much every tournament and had about, I don't know, had 3 or 4 300s in different houses, and I think they're very fun, competitive tournaments. I like the scratch part of it. I like the match play part of it. I like the competition is very, very strong out there with a lot of the pros bowling a lot of those tournaments. So I've enjoyed those. I pretty much stick with as far as balls. It's just crazy when you go down south how I'm able to throw stuff I can't even try to throw up here.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got like an old Rubicon Solid, and there's no houses I can even remotely try to throw that thing up here with me. But I go down there and the thing, I mean, I was playing straight up 12 with it, and it was just insane. I couldn't believe that. And even my Infinite Physics that I just got a few weeks ago, I mean, I shot a 300 out there in Oklahoma on a relatively tough shot. And it's just I can't even throw that ball out here hardly. I actually did throw it at Aaron's last week on the first night of league, but I can't even. I mean, normally at Lunar, I can't even try to throw that ball at Lunar. Or if I do, I have to be about 12, 13 boards right of where I normally would be, just to get it to the pocket. And it's just, to me, I don't like trying to start farther right than I have to.
Yeah.
So, it's yeah, I mean, I don't know, the Infinite, I really am liking it. I think I'm really debating on if I want to throw a little bit of polish on it so I can maybe get it through the heads a little bit more at Lunar, but it worked really good at Aaron's the other night. So I don't know. I've just got the RST3, thrown it a few times in practice, maybe about 7-8 balls at Lunar, and realized very quickly that I don't even need to try to get that out there. So and then I also picked up, what was the other one I just got? Oh, that Hustle USA.
Yeah.
I got that, and I think I could make that work. I only threw it for a few balls in warm-ups and didn't know it well enough to throw it in any kind of league or competition yet. But I've kind of got a little system that I use as far as the house alleys out here at Lunar. Mm-hmm. So I usually go with the dark code at Lunar to start off, and then to blend the lane, I'll go to the Helios, typically game 3, and it's a pretty good combo. So
yeah, we talked to Billy Hutch a couple weeks ago, and seen you doubling up here with him. He Texas is definitely, bowling down there is definitely different from bowling up here. I've told people that, I used to be right-handed. Now I'm left-handed kind of full time. And I try to tell people how difficult it is over here. And then you make me look bad because you're always shooting, make me sound like an idiot because you're always shooting these big scores. But whether it's a house shot, even if it's at Belton, like Belton's not a great lefty house. I would say Lunar's fairly favorable. I like bowling at Lunar. Olathe's hit and miss. Belton's not great, but it seems like you bowl really well on everything at every house, whether it's a house shot, sport pattern. You've just got one of those games that kind of works. So it's kind of a vague question, but what is kind of your bread and butter when it comes to bowling on stuff? What kind of balls do you like to start with, or what's your general philosophy when you walk into a center that maybe you haven't bowled before, you don't know what the pattern is, but you're just one of those guys that knows how to knock the pins down. So what's kind of your general philosophy or your game plan or whatever when you're walking into a tournament?
That's a good question. I typically, no matter where I go to a house, if I don't know the house or the shot, I typically will get one of my benchmark balls. I try to pretty much stray straight up about 10 to 8 to see what I try to get as far left as I can to kind of see how it's going to play. And then I just kind of go from there. And that's, I mean, my bread and butter shot is anytime the straighter I can play, that's the better. That's what I like to do. I mean, I can get in there and play 5th, 6th arrow if I need to, but I'd much rather just go straighter if I can. And typically something that, I mean, it's just, I throw a lot of stuff that kind of is supposed to read early just because it actually reads a little later for me with my ball speed. So stuff that a lot of people, say will pick up really early, I'll throw it and it'll read a little later just because of the ball speed. And it typically just works. So I think the fact that a lot of times I pretty much clear the heads most of the time. So that kind of takes a little bit of that out of play. But I mean, I think that's pretty much just kind of my philosophy is I just try to get left and see what I can throw that pretty much up the boards. And, that's kind of how I play it.
Well, this is the bit I always told people that when I switched hands that I wasn't going to be one of these people that started like getting uppity and started preaching about stuff. But the difference between bowling on the right side of the lane where there's track friction, where you have, I mean, there's a lot of houses in Kansas City where the lanes are like 15, 20, 30 years old. Yeah. And so you've got a bunch of track friction on the right side of the lane. That's why righties can kind of normally like start at 3rd arrow and then they keep moving and they can make big moves that don't really feel like that big of moves. But as soon as you go over the left side where there's not a whole lot of traffic, it feels like a fresh install, which is going to be really interesting for the people at Summit when they're going to get the lanes replaced here pretty soon. And the righties are going to feel our pain. But the left side of the lane, like a 2-1 on the right side of the lane, I moved 2-1 left. If you move 2-1 right on the left side, it's freaking huge. Yeah. And so a lot of stuff on the left side that's earlier and smoother for righties, a lot of the time goes longer and is flippier for us. And so I've had to completely change the type of balls that I throw, the surfaces, the layouts, whatever else. It's a completely different animal because everything wants to go long and be so much sharper on the left side of the lane. Yeah. And so you do want to try to straighten up as much as possible because you don't have that stability. You can't just say, I'm going to start at 3rd arrow or whatever, because you can play, like you said, 10 to 8 and it looks okay. But as soon as you go to even 11 or 12 to 8, all of a sudden the ball wants to just kind of zip right through it. And so it really messes with my head. But even somebody with, you've got a bunch of speed, but you've got a pretty big rev rate too. And so what kind of, you talked about the Helios, you talked about the Rubicon. What kind of general equipment do you like to throw?
Really, when I'm bowling league on house shots, I pretty much take 3 balls, and it's basically the Dark Code, the Helios, and the UC2. I mean, that was the 3 that I generally take. Right now, the UC2 is out of the bag, and the Infinite's in there, but it's the Infinite, Dark Code, and Helios. And that's pretty much, if I'm just bowling league, that's the 3 I take. And I make those work.
Yeah, so that's kind of been the same thing for me. I carried the Infinite Physics around. I carried something called an Attention Black Pearl, which is very similar to like a Dark Code. The Dark Code's kind of on the outside right now, but I favor a lot of stronger covers. All the ones that you mentioned have very strong covers on them. And I have let my Infinite shine up, and it looks really good. But that helps me kind of manage and blend out the lane because everything wants to go 70 feet and turn sideways. Yeah. And so if I can get stronger cores, stronger covers, those kind of blend everything out a little bit better. It lets you kind of keep your angles a little bit straighter. And people like to say, okay, well, you guys have a fresh shot all the time. But it's like sometimes having a fresh shot, when these righties get on these sport patterns, they're like, well, we're just going to stay out of trouble for the first 2 or 3 games. Then it'll transition. Then we'll score. It's like if it's an 8 gamer, we've got a fresh shot for 8 games. So. Yeah.
No, for sure. There's definitely disadvantages also on the left side. It's not always just peaches and cream over there. So that's for sure. But what you were saying earlier about the 2-and-1 moves for the righties, yeah, left side is definitely has its different types of moves, and like even Dan Pennington, he bowls on my team, and a while back here, I was telling him like he was leaving 10 pins, and I told him, I said, just move your feet like a half a board right, and he was like, half a board, and I said, yeah, just move a half a board. And he was like, I didn't know that you don't split boards like that. I said, oh, I said, I'll do third board, quarter board, half boards.
You have to.
Back. I mean, I said, going to the 2-and-1 moves, I mean, that's probably equivalent to maybe a 3 or 4, for a righty. I mean, a 2-board jump is a pretty big jump, and that's going to make the ball do some little bit different things for sure. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. But then you get into a point where you're, if you're a pretty accurate shot maker, and I like to think that I am, you get to where you pretty much can burn out a spot pretty good if you're hitting that spot consistently. And with the revs that I have and the speed, it seems like a lot of times, like I miss the transition for like a couple frames because I don't know. I just think because most of the time, if I hit the pocket, I have a pretty high strike percentage. So when I start not striking, I'm like, okay, maybe, it's just a fluke. I'll leave a 7, leave an 8 or a 9 or something. And I'll just kind of just stay right there. But then I've started to get better with trying to catch the transition, like, because I start paying more attention to how my ball's entering the pocket. And if I'm not carrying a 7-pin, for instance, I like to tell if it's like a flat 7 or a ringing 7. And then I can kind of tell that at that point, I start moving right, and the ball that I was using will start just kind of pushing just a little bit too long, and then it loses some energy hitting the pins, and then it turns into flat 7s. Yeah. And so that's what I'm trying to get better at. Just at that point, just switching to a different ball like the Helios, and then usually when I go to my Helios, wherever I'm throwing, whatever I'm throwing, I usually move about 1-and-1 to the right with the Helios and throw the same shot, and it pretty much is just dead flush every time. So I'm trying to get a lot better at reading the transition a lot faster instead of, spending 3, 4, 5 frames trying to move back and forth and get the 7 out. Because then if I move right and then I leave a flat 7, then I'm thinking, okay, well, I need to maybe go back left, but then you move left, then you hit that friction, then all of a sudden you're leaving the 2, 4, 7, and it's just you're kind of stuck in that little zone. So you gotta, by that time you wasted 2 or 3 frames, and I'm trying to just eliminate that out of my game and just kind of realize as soon as it hits flat, I just need to get out of it and move over and switch equipment.
Yeah, and that's the tricky thing for me figuring it out, because moves on the right side, everything righties they just want to look at the left. They don't notice when the lefty just bullseyes, like somebody like Trevor Baumgartner or Packy that just absolutely label every single shot. And if they miss a little bit, it's a 6-pin, or it's a 6-8, or you drive by an 8, or something else. And righties are used to being able to miss, like, oh, it's a couple boards right, oh, it'll hook, or it's a couple boards in, it'll sit there. You can't do that on the left side. I mean, I don't know how frustrated I get when I tug it a little bit, and I'm like, okay, that'll sit. And then it's the big 4, and I'm like, I'm thinking like, well, this is a bunch of crap. But it is on the right side, but it's not on the left side.
Yeah.
So my mental programming is a little off, but at the same time, there are some times when it's like, okay, well, there's kind of a shot there, and all you have to do is you kind of line up and then you hit it. So accuracy, I think, is a lot more important on the left side, because once you find it, then you've just got to hit it repeatedly. It's a little boring, but on the right side, you might have a shot, and then all of a sudden, there's transition. Then you got to catch up with it, and then you got to move and whatever else. But it's a definite trade off, because if they're tight to start off with, if you're not really comfortable with your look on the left side, you've got that all day. So you've just got to figure it out, and then you got to hit shots. On the right side, it's like, okay, well, if it's not great, I'll just wait for a couple of games, and I just got to chase it and stay ahead of it better than everybody else. So I think it's one of those things where the righties are going to have their days, the lefties are going to have their days. You just got to keep showing up and putting your shoes on, throwing the ball, and seeing what happens.
Yeah, no, I agree, 100%.
Dave, you got anything for Mr. Robotics here?
Yeah, I've been watching the chat a little bit, and of course, Brandon, you were talking about the Sasbas earlier, and we kind of had a little fun with your intro. But do you actually make any adjustments when you have to wear slacks and a shirt and you look almost unrecognizable?
No, Dave. No, there's no there's no adjustments other than I get hotter faster, and I just hate the constriction of sleeves on me.
Yeah.
But no, as far as my bowling goes, it doesn't really make any adjustments there.
A lot of people, they see you, and you're kind of known for that. And I talked about with Luke before you came on a couple of years ago when you kind of first came on the scene, and we're blowing up numbers all over the place. People like to talk in town. They like to talk in every town, and with lefties especially, as Luke and I both know, as we both bowl on the left side at times. But people were saying, hey, this guy's great on house, but it's just not, his game isn't going to translate to the tougher patterns. I tried to debunk that early on because I felt like the way you can loft the ball and the way you can use speed, I think you can overpower a lot of patterns to where your ball will get down to 35, 40 feet before it has to do anything. It kind of doesn't really matter what's in the first part of the pattern. So I think you've improved a lot in your tournament play as opposed to even with your house side.
Yeah. No, I think I have too. I mean, I know in the beginning, I just started bowling tournaments just a couple years ago, really. And I came back to bowling in 2018 after taking almost 6 years off. And and then granted, when I bowled, it was at Lunar, and I had to Google. I lived in Oak Grove at the time, and I had to Google a bowling alley near me, and then I found Lunar, and then so I called them and asked them if it was on a Thursday, and I said, "You guys have any leagues?" And they said, "Yeah." And I said, "You guys need any subs?" And they said, "Just come up and you can see." And because it was funny, because dude, I was like dreaming about bowling for quite a while after not bowling for 6 years, and I just decided, I was like, man, I gotta bowl. And so I went down in my basement, and I had to spend probably 15, 20 minutes looking for my bowling balls. I didn't even know where they were at. And it's funny because at the time, all I had was I had an Ebonite V2 Vortex, the original that came out, not the latest one, but that's the ball. I had probably 4 or 5 of that exact same ball, and every one of them that I bought was all used. Every one of them, and that was literally, I had one ball that I carried with me and a bag of shoes, and that was it. And that I did that for about 4 years, and I'll never forget. Even in 2007, in Kansas, when I lived out there at Park Lanes, I averaged 243 with that ball, and that was the only ball I had. And I just thought that was like, I was like, holy cow, I can't believe I'm with, I don't know. It's just, everybody always has a, show up with 6, 7 balls to league. And I just show up with just one ball and I carry my shoes in, and that's all I had. And then, so now it's just, I got, I don't know, back in about 2013, I started carrying, I got 2 balls, and I actually bought a Venom Shock, and that was the first motive I ever threw. And that's the ball that I actually found the night that I went up to Lunar to sub. I took that up there in my V2, and I ended up finding a team to bowl on, and shot a 299 and 803 right out of the first time without any. And it was just from that point on, then everybody was like, starting to talk to me and ask me to come bowl. And then I ended up, they ended up making me full time on that league, on that team. And somebody decided they'd sit out. So that was kind of crazy, but yeah, that was just, ever since then, it's just been kind of getting back into bowling. And then like 2000, maybe 19, I would say, is when I really started to try to start bowling some tournaments. And then it's just really, so it's really been 2-3 years I've been bowling. And then the sports shot, I mean, I didn't even know nothing about that kind of stuff until I started bowling tournaments. So yeah, I mean, I definitely struggled on those in the beginning, but I definitely think I've gotten a lot better for sure. And I've even got urethane now, so I pull that out on occasion. So yeah, no, it's definitely been a transition, but I mean, all I try to do is like improve every time. I mean, I look at my league bowling as like my practice because I don't really have time to go practice. So I just, I try to get better at everything I do, and I'm always constantly working on something. And I mean, just when I got into bowling when I was 15, 16 years old, my mom used to take me to the bowling alley at College Lanes at 9 o'clock in the morning, and my dad would pick me up at 1 o'clock in the morning when he got off work at the railroad, and I would bowl all day long, and I was literally bowling 150, 200 games a day, and that's when I bowled with my thumb. So, and I constantly tore my thumb up, and I just every single day I bowled all day long, every day, and then when leagues would come in, I'd try to sub, or I'd just sit there and watch, and then as soon as lanes were open, I'd get right back on lanes again and just keep bowling. I would ice my thumb to make the swelling go down and the blisters and all that, and then get back up, new skin it, and start bowling again. And it's just all I've ever really, really done. And so now I just try to fine tune everything. Now that I'm bowling too, I take my thumb out, and it definitely that's been a lot more comfortable bowling with no thumb. Because I tear my thumb up when I bowl with it for whatever reason. But I mean, but that's only been for probably 8 years now, maybe 7, 8 years. And it definitely was interesting getting into that. And I never think I was ever I think there was a pro bowler that I saw bowl a 300 at Incredible. I think his name was Mike Miller.
Yeah.
And I think he was, and I remember them saying that he was the first pro bowler to bowl with no thumb. And when I saw that, I was like, man, that's a good idea. And so it was probably in a time where my thumb was like the size of who knows what. And I just tried to, I remember taking it out, and I was like, I'm going to try that. And like the first 3 or 4, I don't even know how many shots now, but it just seemed like the first one, like right in the gutter, the next one right in the gutter. I was like, oh, there ain't no way I'm going to be able to hold a ball and throw this thing. And I really don't even know how it just clicked. One day it just started working, and then I don't know. I just got the hang of it a little bit. And so I bowled a league with a guy 2 or 3 years after I started that, and I was on his team. He didn't even know I didn't bowl with my thumb. So yeah, no, it's a little unique. I mean, I know there's a lot of two-handers out there now that don't have thumbs, but I'm not really a two-hander since I don't use two hands, but I don't know. It's just got to try to get better on everything is all I try to do out there. So yeah.
And that's so I've bowled left-handed before. I bowled a couple of years, but it was kind of like I'm just giving my right shoulder a break, and then I'll be back to it. Now I'm going to be a lefty full time, and so that's what I've kind of gone that direction. And even though Packy's two-handed, you're one-handed no thumb, and then Trevor Baumgartner is traditional.
Yeah.
You guys, you're the three that I pay attention to the most from a lane play bowling, and we've got very different games. I don't hook it a whole bunch. All three of you have again two-handed, one-handed no thumb, one-handed traditional. You've all got higher rev rates. You throw it harder, but you're the ones that I kind of watch for figuring things out. And I'd like to think that I'm pretty smart about the whole bowling thing, but the left side is so completely different than the right side, and it's been a little bit demoralizing here where I thought, okay, well, it's a fresh shot all the time, so I'm just going to do this and whatever else, and it's just everything's so different. But you are the three that I really pay attention to and watch, and I really like your game. I like whenever I get to watch you bowl, and I do pay a lot of attention. So I'm a pretty big fan of you, and of course the other guys too. But I do really pay a whole lot of attention, and I appreciate what you guys do, how you play the lanes, what you taught me. So thanks. I guess.
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, no problem. I just do what I do out there, but. No, I mean, I think you're extremely knowledgeable. So, You know all the technical ball stuff and all that stuff. I don't really know hardly any of that, honestly. I get all my equipment drilled the exact same.
Well, and that's the thing is I've recently, because the right side of the lane, you have a bunch of equipment. You say, well, I'm going to ball down into this, and I'm going to ball down into this. But on the left side of the lane, I thought, okay, well, the first year switching, I thought, well, okay, I'm just going to try to hit the pocket, keep it simple, whatever else. Last year, I thought, okay, well, I'm going to branch out a little bit. I'm going to throw different stuff. That doesn't really work so well. I mean, you're pretty well always on a fresh pattern, and so you got to kind of go to what stuff works. And so I've been trying to get back to simplifying and trying to figure out what works for me. And so that's what I've been paying a whole lot more attention to, what you guys do, the kind of equipment that you use, the lines that you play. And so, yeah, even though I know a bunch of the technical stuff, you have to pay a bunch of attention to the people that just know how to get the pins down. And I work a lot with Trevor. I drill his equipment. He's like, I don't know. You figure out the tech stuff. But I'm like, you're so smart on the lane play side of things that you know a whole lot more than you really think you know. And I think you're on the same wavelength where you're like, oh, tech stuff, whatever, just drill the ball like this. I'm going to go out and throw it. But you're so much smarter on the lane play side of things where you just know how to bowl, you know how to get the pins down. And so I pay a lot of attention to you guys, just saying, okay, what are they doing? What is going on here? Just that general sixth sense about how to get the pins down, what angles to play, whatever else. And so, yeah, sure, I'm smart on the tech side of things, but I pay a lot of attention to you guys that just know how to bowl, so to speak.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment coming from you.
What you got, Waz?
I'm just listening along here, learning like normal. As I kind of apologize, Brandon. I've been looking away here. These people, the bowling stuff that's going on right now is kind of inundating me. So I can get messages on tomorrow's tournament and the GKCO and all kinds of stuff. I'm trying to do like 4 things at once here. And
Yep.
But yeah, I really appreciate you coming on there, hanging through some of the tech issues there at the start. And look forward to seeing you continue to pile up the numbers. And if you're not the bowler over here in Kansas City this year, I don't know who is.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me on. I had fun.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, man.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Yeah. Have a good night, man. All right, Luke, you learned a little bit. You got some of your questions answered there. Let's go and bring in our guest of the night who's been patiently waiting in the queue. You guys, there he is right there. Mark, you want to do your intro by yourself here? Let's see what
I hope you guys can hear me because I'm not getting any return audio feed at all. So
yeah, everything sounds good from our end. So you might want to check your audio or your speakers on your end. Everything sounds good from our end. So you might want to check your audio or speakers on your end.
Okay. Only if I unplug the mic. Let's try this.
Yeah.
Now let's try the laptop mic and see if that helps. I don't know what the issue is.
You sound fine now.
Okay, good. I've got the remote mic unplugged, and now I can hear the return audio, so that's good.
Okay. Yeah, as long as you can hear us, we're good then, because we can hear you.
Excellent.
Hey, Mark. Go ahead and lead us in. Bring it in with the WLS open.
All right, WLX Radar Weather shows partly cloudy skies in the extended forecast through Tuesday, and especially for Labor Day Monday, with high temperatures in the mid-70s, lows in the mid-60s, and partly cloudy, no chance of rain through Tuesday. Currently 67 at O'Hare, 68 at Midway, and 69 at the former Miggs Field, downtown Chicago, near the Loop. And that's the weather here on the Big AM 89 WLS. Of course, now it's FM 94.7 WLS FM. But anyway, the station hasn't had, the AM hasn't had music since 89. So I still feel the need to audition for it just to see if I can do it, just to warm up the pipes a little bit.
Yeah, you've definitely got the voice for it.
Yeah, Luke, that's
Oh, good. Appreciate that. Thanks.
Mark used to always bring it in the old radio days, so we still let him.
Yes.
Mark, apologize for the delay with our previous guests and some of our tech issues. So we're running a little shorter on time than I would have liked today, but obviously we're going to give you some time here. We're going to talk with you about what's going on in the world of motive, what's going on with your column, Just Paying Attention, at thebowlingnews.net. So get us up to speed on what's going on in your world.
Well, with Motive, we've got a new release out this week. It is the Forge Ember with a hybrid cover, finished at 2,000 dull. It's quite it's a nice reaction compared to the other Forge balls. It's got a very early roll to it. Even though it's 2,000 grit, it does hook quite a bit. And it came out on the 31st, and it's available at pro shops near you. If you like that Forge core, it's certainly ball to go toward. Other releases this past summer, the Pride Pearl, the upper end benchmark ball, has a 5,000 finish pearl cover. That definitely adds a little more skid flip reaction. I know Motive is a very unique line where they have some very early rolling stuff and they have some real skid flip balls, as well as your more traditional shape. So it's quite the variety in the whole line. So if you like that in your arsenal and want to stick with one company, Motive is certainly a way to go. The Pride Pearl is green for St. Patty's Day green. It's a bright green, and it's quite attractive going down the lane. Definitely a little bit later and a little bit stronger than the Iron Forge that was out late last fall. Also out, that's a little more skid flippy, is the Mythic Jackal, that great Jackal core that they've had for a number of years. It's a 2-to-1 hybrid, which features twice as much pearl as solid. And that's finished at a 2,000 grit as well. And of course, the ball before that was the Blue Tank Pearl, the microfiber polymer with that light bulb core that they've had in a number of other balls before. That's a little bit stronger than the Red Tank, which I almost shot 300 with it. So it's got to be really good. So it definitely has a lot more traction, and it's going to provide a nice avenue to go to if you are shooting on the over-under, or if the lanes are cliffed, especially when the ball jumps left to the back end. It's definitely a nice read for your arsenal.
All right, what's going on with the column? What's up next?
Well, the column. In the upcoming September and October issues, I'm going to have a 2-part interview with the two gals that provided color commentary on the USBC singles and team championships, the ISC and the ITC championships back last spring. Sydney Brummett and also Julia Bond were kind enough to answer some questions. The nice thing was I was able to get them to answer the same questions. I didn't interview them at the same time, just with the way technology goes. But I was able to put their answers to the same questions, and they, as you're going to see once the issue is posted at thebowlingnews.net in my Just Paying Attention column, that you're going to see some very wide variety of answers for the questions that I asked them. It's definitely different talking to people who don't have a media background, who don't have, didn't aspire to be the next next great voice or the next great face of bowling on television. But it's very unusual, very unique to have somebody, especially who is making their commentating debut on national television. It's sort of like what I call learning the business backwards. Normally you start off at a smaller outfit, just a local live stream, and then you morph up to large market and then a network gig. But starting off on top is a little unique. That these two young ladies, very familiar names to collegiate bowlers, of course, Brummett with Wichita State and Bond with University of Nebraska. Very, very good resumes. Bond has won a couple times already, including the Queens, and they did pretty well. And in fact, on a local tournament here at Jeff Riggle's 11thframe.com here in town a couple of weeks ago, Brummett was kind enough to sit in and commentate during her boyfriend Nick Pate's win in the title match, where she provided some really good nuggets of information and did pretty well.
All right, Mark, enough about the bowling, and unfortunately, I'm sorry for this, but we're a little shorter on time than I would have liked. But let's talk Steelers and Chiefs here. Chiefs picked up Juju. We want to know what we're getting out of him.
Well, you're going to get definitely an all-pro receiver. He's definitely got the hands, and definitely it helps if you have a quarterback who can get the ball to him. As long as he's not double or triple teamed, but even if he's double teamed, he's a way to get open and make plays. And as you saw the last couple times we played the Chiefs, he definitely have some speed. But it could be a nice piece in the Chiefs' arsenal going forward. As far as the Steelers, they just they're not one to give out a huge contract. They gave Ben one, and maybe a couple of other players. I know Watt is due. He's doing okay, but they're not going to go long term. They just never have. The Rooneys have never really done that sort of thing. Just being more penny wise, I guess. But it's still the same culture. It's still the standard, as Tomlin has referred to over the years. But I mean, you have a franchise that's had 3 head coaches in the last 55, almost 60 years. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting year, especially with Pickett and Puckett as our new guys. The kid from Pitt is impressive. I know there was talk about trying to get Mason Rudolph to go to Detroit in a trade, but I'm not sure if that's even on the table anymore. So should be an interesting year with Trubisky now that he actually has an offense to work with, offensive coordinator to work with, compared to what he had with the Bears, who seem to be stuck with quarterbacks going, who knows? It seems to be almost a curse. Not quite like the Cub curse that was supposedly there, but quarterbacks of the Bears, I mean, you can name on, 2 fingers the decent ones that they've had in the last 40 years that actually did something besides Jim McMahon. But that was under, of course, Coach Ditka, not really throwing the ball down the field much like Jimmy did out west playing college. But should be an interesting year. Hopefully we'll get to 500. 9-10 wins I'm expecting. Talking to my uncle who still lives out there and who's been a season ticket holder since 70, so he has some pretty good inside information. All he's really said is they know they're not going to go 4-13 now with 17 game schedule, but they're going to be at least 500.
Mitchell Trubisky will always have a close place in my heart, along with the Chicago Bears, for taking him in the first round instead of taking Patrick Mahomes. So before we let you go, I'll let you. I got one more thing here for you, and it's coming from the chat, and I'll let you address it. A gentleman named Devin Atkinson says he used to.
Oh yes, Devin. He shot 300 recently. Nice shooting, Devin. Congratulations. Bowled with him in league at what used to be Brunswick Zone Deer Park former home of the Brunswick Memorial World Open. Yeah, it's been a long time. It's been 12 years now since I ran the shop there. So it's good to hear from folks I used to bowl league with.
Yeah, one last thing. Somebody who also does a podcast, Bowling with the Fest, doesn't call it a curse.
Well, I don't know. I've been married to a Cupfingen for a while now, so I'll just leave that at that. So.
All right. Well, Andrew, in the chat there, we appreciate you chiming in. We listen to your show every once in a while. Mark, sorry about the short week this week. We'll get you on another time, and we'll catch up with you, and we'll talk a little more motive and talk a little more football.
All right. Good deal. Look forward to it, guys. Thanks for having me on.
All right, man. Have a good night. All right, Luke, let's wrap this thing up. We've done just about as much damage to the world of technology as we can do, and enough damage to the brain cells in my head for bowling with what's going on my computer here. I keep looking away here, and as you can tell, it's gotten dark here in the Waswo basement studios here. So got to get the lighting fixed here for when now that the days are getting shorter, the light matters. So anyway, once again, thanks to Angel for producing the show. Thanks to all of our sponsors. We appreciate everybody. Actually, it's time for the dogs. The dogs have been brought in already.
Come here, buddy.
Usually, I've got Gabby is usually right next to me, but she's stepped away for a moment, as has the dog. So we're going to skip that tradition. And Luke, got a million things going on, so why don't you lead us out?
Yeah, well, thanks everybody for joining us. We'll see y'all next week. We've got, I think we'll see you next week. We got a bunch of things going on. We got the Kansas City Open coming up. We've got, we're bowling next weekend. We've got a bunch of people coming in from all over the country. It's going to be a good time. It's going to be busy for these guys. They've got, again, a tournament tomorrow on Labor Day. Then they've got tournaments the next 3 weekends. We got all kinds of things going on. We want to thank our sponsors, of course, Storm, Turbo, Bowlers Mart, Coolwick, I Am Bowling, Double J's Pro Shop, S&H Custom Homes, Bobby Jackson's Trading. Let me see. Turbo, Bowlers Mart. Want to thank all our guests for coming on tonight. Cabanski, we'll catch up with Brett Cooper when we can. Brandon Carlson, who makes the left side seem a lot easier than it is. Mark London. Yeah, we'll see you next time. So we're out.